The last set of questions that we'll take a look at today is really a mix of questions and sometimes statements. For example, tag questions or negative questions, indirect questions, and sometimes just normal statements. Let's take a look at some examples.
Today is really hot, isn't it? Yes, it is. Do you know where Mr. Chen is? I think he's in the conference room. Isn't it beautiful today? It really is. I really like your hat. Thanks, I got it yesterday.
Now, let's take a look at that last set of questions that we talked about. These are some more advanced type questions, and we're going to look at 5 different types. Now, the first type we're going to look at are called negative questions. They usually start with a negative word. For example, hasn't, or don't, or aren't. Let's take a look at some examples.
Aren't you cold? Yes, I'm freezing. Isn't Jenny's new dress beautiful? It certainly is.
Usually with these types of negative questions, the expected response is an affirmative statement. Let's take a look.
Isn't Jenny's new dress beautiful? Yes, it is. Isn't Jenny's new dress beautiful? Actually, I don't like it.
Sometimes these negative questions can be used as invitations, like this.
Won't you come drinking with us? Sure, that sounds fun.
And sometimes negative questions can be used to make suggestions, like this.
Shouldn't you go a little early? No, they don't end until 10.
And sometimes we also see negative questions being used to make an offer, like this.
Wouldn't you like to sit down for a while? Actually, I would. Thank you.
Next, let's take a look at tag questions. Now, tag questions are usually normal statements like this.
It's hot.
but they will have a tag question at the end of it, like, doesn't he? Or isn't she? So a tag question looks like this.
It's hot, isn't it?
Let's look at some more examples of tag questions.
Toshio, you're Japanese, aren't you? Yesterday you played baseball, didn't you? He wasn't late, was he?
Sometimes, instead of using tag questions, we can use phrases like this. Right? Don't you think? Or wouldn't you say? Let's take a look at some other examples.
Toshio, you're Japanese, right? Yes, I am. I'm from Tokyo. Don't you think it's hot? Yes, I do. This necklace is a little expensive, don't you think? Well, it is made of gold.
Next, let's take a look at alternative questions. Alternative questions usually ask you to make a choice between two different things. And usually the word or is in the question. Let's take a look at some examples.
Will the meeting be held in the morning or in the afternoon? In the morning. Would you like steak or fish?
Because the question is asking us to make a choice, usually the answer will not be yes or no. We must pick one of the choices.
Will the meeting be held in the morning or in the afternoon? In the morning. Would you like steak or fish?
Sometimes the responses to these types of questions can have the words both or neither, like this.
Do you like Italian or French food? Both. Neither.
Next, let's take a look at indirect questions. Indirect questions are usually used when you want to ask something a little more politely. Basically, it's a question in a question. Let's take a look at some examples.
Can you tell me where the bank is? It's right down the street. Do you know if Mr. Smith is attending the conference? I believe he is. Did you decide what time the party will start? No, not yet.
Indirect questions usually use phrases like, did you know? Or, do you think? Did you hear? Are you sure? Could you? The important thing to remember is that the response to these indirect questions is usually not yes or no. The important thing is that the response answers the information question in the indirect question. So for example, if the indirect question was, did you decide what movie you want to see? The answer, yes, I did, would be kind of strange. A correct response or answer would be like this: I want to see the horror movie. That response answers the information question, what movie do you want to see?
Can you tell me where the bank is? It's right down the street. Do you know if Mr. Smith is attending the conference? I believe he is.
Okay, the very last thing that we're going to look at are statements. Now, statements are not questions, so the responses can be a little more difficult. Let's take a look at some common statements.
The boss wants us in his office at 2 o'clock. Thanks for telling me. Please finish the report by Friday. I'll get started on it now.